Hello there. In our previous episode, we implement our first class and we discuss how we can compile it, and now we know also more about the variables. In this episode, we would like go a little bit more into Unreal Engine and implement the first things that we call them components. The basic structure that lets us add something like mesh or 3D objects or interaction into our blueprint or class. It will be interesting step because it lets us to show something to our users. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Let's then dig into it.
If you have been working with Unreal for a while, you know that we prefer composition over inheritance. Instead of building one massive giant monster class, we build a generic actor, plug in a health component, a movement component, and a mesh component. But when you go to create a new C++ class, you are hit with a choice UActorComponent or USceneComponent. Here we would like to go through them to see what are they and how they can be used actually. UActorComponent, this is the base class for all components. It lives on an actor, can think and has logic. But this is the key. It has no physical presence in the world. On the other hand, USceneComponent, this inherited from UActorComponent, is has everything the UActorComponent has, but it adds a transform. This means it has a location, rotation, and scale. It supports attachments, meaning it can have parents and children. Also, we have your primitive component that here we do not discuss it a lot, but we will see the usefulness of them in action in Unreal Engine later on. They are actually a type of using component, but they can have a renderer, like a static mesh, or they can have also collisions that will be useful later for the physics. When we are talking about the UActor components, it's important to think in this way that it's like a brain or logic for our actor. Since it has no transform, you cannot place it at a specific position in our blueprint. It just exists on an actor. The use case of this one is like an inventory system. You can ask yourself, does an inventory system need a physical location? No, it's just data. Or health and mana manager. They are just numbers on logics. Or certain AR controller. It's a logic that dedicates the behavior. If you do not need to attach something to a socket or move it around the world, you can use UActor component. It saves memory and keeps things clean. On the other hand, using components, it has a position. You can think about it like a body or joints of that actor. Because this inherits from UActor component, it can still have logic, but its main purpose is to exist in 3D space. Crucially, using component allows for nesting. You can attach a camera to a spring arm and the spring arm to the roots. We can think about use cases like mounting points, a spawned location for a projectile, or camera booms to hold the camera at a certain distance, or dummy objects. The important note is every actor has a root component. The root must be a scene component or something inheriting from it, because the actor needs to know where it is in the world. That's it. Now we can go into the code and see how we can use the things that we learn to implement our first scene components for our objects. Okay, now imagine we have an object like this crate that we would like to add in the scene as a box that we can attack it and it will explode and give us some maybe benefits like coin or any advantages in game as a reward to our achievement. This box by itself has a visualization and we can see it. It's a graphic that we can see in our environment, but there is no logic behind it. It's like that grass, and there is no difference between them. In order to make a logic for this one, we need to make a blueprint or class, and then in that class define this crate as an object, and then defining the logic internally. According to what we learned here, now we would like to use components to do that. In order to do that, either you can go here, for example, I will create quickly a blueprint first. I have a certain naming convention for my folder. You can have whatever you prefer. And then here I can create a new blueprint from type actor class and call it maybe uh, rocket target. Yep. And then inside here I can import that object or static mesh. And that's it. Now I have the crate inside it, and it is added as an object here, and then I can define the logic in the blueprint. However, when we take a look at it, we see when we hover the mouse over it, it says it's a static mesh component. And this static mesh component is one of the types that we discussed, but not in detail exactly. It's a primitive component. And we would like to see how we can create it instead of in Blueprint in C++. The benefit of creating it in C++ is then we have access to this model as a static mesh component, not the model itself, but the components for doing the certain interaction afterwards. Then let's go through the C++ to see how we can do the same structure that we have here there. Okay, I will remove it, and also I will remove this class because this blueprint actually, because I do not need it. And I will go to my writer to see what can I do here. Okay, in the games folder in source, previously we created some classes. Here I will right click. It's a new way of creating class. I will go to the add and using Unreal class. And here I will select the actor type, giving it a name. The name would be rocket target. And we can later inherit from this class and having different kind of rocket targets. It's one of the ways it's inheritance workflow. Maybe it's not the best case, but for our use case would be useful. And I will create this class here. As you can see, Writer automatically created the header file in the public folder, and private folder we will have rocket.cpp. In the header file, I will first clean up a little bit this class, moving this one on top. And then inside the public one, I will use it for the members. We would like to have SceneComponent, first of all, as a root of the hierarchy. Because if you remember, before having that static mesh, on top of that, there was one scene component or one component. In order to do that, I can use USceneComponent and call it maybe root or maybe rocket target root. It would be better. But as this one is a pointer and we might lose our access to it due to the garbage collection, it's better to give it a U property. And I would like to modify it only inside the blueprint. It means inside the editor of the blueprint. For that reason, I will choose edit defaults only. And then I would like to have access to it and give it blueprint read and write, that if someone wants to modify it, being able to do that. And category, I will give it like this: rocket target and components. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. Now we have it, and if we compile our code, and we get back to the Unreal Engine, and we make a blueprint out of that glass. Rocket target. We do not see that component anywhere. We would expect that it would be here, but it's not there. Let's see what's the issue. The issue is we need to actually create these components, because this one is just a placeholder for the pointer for it. We need to create this component in such a way that our blueprints understand, and also our class understand, that this object is created. And we will do it in the constructor of this class. We come here and we will type rocket target root is equal create default subobject, type of the subobject that we have, and it's from type of USceneComponent, and with the name of the rocket target root. You can either do it like this, or it's a better practice if you use a text macro and then put it like this one. Then, as these objects will be the root of our hierarchy, it would be better that we set it also as a root. But before that, let's see how does it look like if we do not define it like that. If you do not see the influence, you can either press compile or close the blueprint, right click on it, because the constructor effect, sometimes it's a good practice that you go to the asset action and then press reload. Then when you open it and press open full blueprint editor, you will see now we have it here. However, it's also a good practice that you say set root component and rocket target root as a root component. Now, if you remember, we would like to now add our static mesh or 3D object there. I will do it the same way, but instead of scene component, this time I will use UStaticMeshComponent star and call it target mesh. It's better to have a consistency, rocket target mesh. And I will give it the same U property setting. Afterward, here I can come and say, okay, rocket target mesh is equal to create default sub object of type UStaticMeshComponent and with the name of rocket target mesh. And for this one, as we would like to have it as a child of rocket target root, we can say rocket target mesh setup attachment, and then give it a name of the root. Now, if I compile this class, in Unreal Engine, I will see now I have this rocket target mesh as well. The only point is, if I go to the viewport, nothing in there, because it's just a placeholder. And the static mesh for it is empty. In order to fill it with something, we can go to the content browser and inside the static mesh that we have, drag and drop it here, or just press this button. Now, if I press compile and add that object, that blueprints that I made to the scene, it has the mesh, and also it's inherited from the class that we had from the rocket target C++ code, and we can do the rest of actions that we would like to have here. I think it's a very good, interesting, and a useful starting point for us to implement the logics that we would like to have for our rocket target and also the other parts of our game. Looking forward to see you in the next episode. Enjoy your time. See you there.